For any startup, that co-founder relationship, that is the glue that will tie your startup together. So getting this right is important. People often say the most important relationship is who you pick to marry, but I'd say you spend even more time with your co-founder, especially in the early days where it's like your entire life. Welcome back, Mr. Bond. Welcome back to the least highly anticipated makeup tutorial on YouTube. Welcome back to my next video. The second most frequently question I get asked is how to find a co-founder. This really is like a massive stumbling block for founders. And it was a stumbling block for me when I started out. And it's actually the premise of many really great incubators that realize that a lot of great people need to find co-founders to work with them. And they start incubators to match people up. Entrepreneur First is one of them. They're amazing. So I want to share my experience with this, how I found my co-founder. In almost every single video, in my blog posts, on any of my social media platforms, I always talk about Greg Ramsey-Keel, my co-founder. So if you even know me a little bit, you'll know about Greg. I always talk about him. I'm absolutely obsessed with Greg. Greg is incredible. He's the yin to my yang. He's the salt to my pepper, the left to my right. He's the whale to my blue. Blue to my whale. Greg's amazing. We had this incredible relationship, from making our first round together to our first million, from the absolute pits of despair, crying together in boardrooms when we thought we were at the end of our runway, to toasting champagne on a business class flight after closing the deal of our lives together. For any startup, that co-founder relationship, especially in the early days, that is the glue that will tie your startup together. That is what will get investors to believe in you, because investors aren't investing in a product generally, especially for your seed round and maybe even your Series A. They're looking at the team that's going to make this happen. Can you take this idea, which anyone else could essentially have, this product, which anyone else essentially could build, but are you the people that have the perseverance, the relationship, the chutzpah, the know-how, the energy to make this thing happen? So getting this right is important. Not to add more pressure though to this, if you haven't found a co-founder yet and you're on the other side of the chasm and you're just like, okay, I know that it's important. You're preaching to the choir. How do I actually do this now? How do I actually find the co-founder? I'm going to have a section on my website for my book, upstartbook.com. I think I shared it before the previous video. There's also a link somewhere in this video description. On there, I'm going to have I think I'm going to do a forum. I think that would be quite cool. So people can chat to other co-founders about I want to start this business, or I'm looking for this kind of person or that kind of person. It's just a cool central place. If you like these videos, you like this kind of energy, that's a cool place to vibe, I think, find each other. Also some resources that I have around co-founders, the right incubators to find a co-founder. Also going to list investors and stuff there. So just upstartbook.com is a place to go find it. A lot of potential founders or people with really awesome ideas want to get going and they feel like this is a stumbling block. I can't get to the next stage without a co-founder. They say the same thing around getting investment, or the same thing around building a product or being in a certain place. And sometimes I think these excuses are valid, but I'd say in almost all situations, they're not valid. There's something you can do right now. And even the co-founder thing, obviously, ideally, in the long run, you want a co-founder, but you have to get started. You have to just start with whatever you have right now. So, for example, when I started Digs Connect, I had 2 semesters of comp sci behind me. So I'm not exactly, like Mark Zuckerberg here. I'm not going to be sort of coding on the blockchain anytime soon. But I knew basically enough to know what I basically wanted. And from that, I could get going, registering a Squarespace website, buying a domain, getting cracking, building an MVP. I'm going to talk about MVPs later on. I tried so hard to find a co-founder, all the usual things. I hung out on all the forums where the tech crowds hang out. I went to all the startup events. I met people. I was posting like crazy on Twitter. I was just trying anything I could. And the co-founder dating, I just wasn't working out. And I was like, I need a CTO. I can't get started. After months of this was like a massive black pill moment for me. I realized that if you're trying to find a CTO, you have to become the CTO. Sure, maybe you do have this incredible relationship or this incredible stroke of luck where you find the perfect person who has a skill set that matches yours and then the right phase of life right now to be your co-founder. But if you can't find that, you have to become that. And it's critical because this kind of mindset, this kind of thinking is like what it takes to be a founder anyways. Like whatever the deficit is, you have to fill that role. And you can say, oh, well, I mean, I don't have the years of coding experience and I'm not like a savant or some sort of mathematical genius that can like build incredible code, but you can do something with that. So like, you know, you can figure out, right, almost everything is available to learn on the internet. Go online and find what you need to find. And I could do, you know, Code Academy is great, or Udemy courses, or YouTube videos. You can download things, start working, and start hacking together the platform. Start like making things happen. I had this really like awful little hot desk working space. It was the cheapest one I could get in Cape Town. And I was working there during the day, and I was renting this tiny little awful room down the road in Woodstock. And I was kind of going between the two, and that was my entire life. And I spent all day doing like the business side of Digs Connect, which was phoning clients and chatting to users and trying to do sales with like a piece of paper, basically. I'm going to talk about do things that don't scale when I talk about MVPs, because that's really important. But try to validate that this was an idea that people wanted. Be on campus, you know, speaking to students. And then at night, I'd be like, okay, cool, how do I interpret what I've learned into some sort of way to automate it using the leverage of technology? So I was doing both of those. And it feels like so slow. I mean, I remember one day I need to just write blog posts because I want to get some like content out there, create just more, again, like more gravity, like more mass to this idea that I had. And blog posts writing, I felt like, I should be doing things that are more important, but every little bit was adding up. And the thing about doing this is it creates this gravitational pull where suddenly you have something of substance. Not a lot, but it's 0.0001%, which is more than zero. That can be compounded. Zero can't be compounded. So it's just a study of like getting to do the work. And when you start doing this, you start pulling people into your realm that are interested and fascinated and curious about what it is that you're creating. And this is the big insight. This is the critical point from this entire episode, is that you have to make yourself the kind of person that someone else wants to co-found with. Be that person and let people come to you. Do the work, put your product out there, put yourself out there, tell the story, get things going. Have that happen, and like other interesting, switched on, intelligent, energized people are gonna be like, hold up, like that's interesting. You're not gonna be like another person at a, you know, at a braai or a dinner party or at a bar saying, oh yeah, you know, I've got this really great idea, or like, oh, imagine we did this, or like, I'm gonna happen, like one day I'm gonna like build this thing, it's gonna be huge. No, you've already done it. You're not just talking a big game, you're walking the talk. So when someone says to you, okay, cool, that's a really good idea, what have you done? You're like, oh, well, I can't, I need funding, I need what? No excuses. You're like, actually, look what I've done, look what I've built. I've spoken to these 20 clients, I've got these people that are committed, I've already proved this, I've done that, this is what I've built, I know it's not great, that's something. And from this thing that I've got, like I've really, you know, generated this revenue even. I mean, that's incredible. People take you seriously then. If you're just talking about ideas, I mean, I remember when I used to try to co-founder dating and all I had was ideas, I mean, I was punching way above my weight and going to like incredibly successful switched on people that had, and anyone who's really good is going to have 1,000 other options. You haven't got any security and you're saying, you know, leave everything you have and jump on this rocket ship, or this rocket ship, everyone says they got a rocket ship, but meanwhile it's probably like a donkey cart. And you're saying jump on my donkey cart because it's going to become a rocket ship, I promise. You are not selling the startup, you're selling yourself as a viable partner. And I think showing that you're the kind of person that you would want, that is getting the work done, that is not making excuses, that is defaulting to yes, that is switched on, that is not like just like hustling, that has that gravitas, that is so convincing. Because then like the proof's in the pudding, you've done that work already with the limited resources you have. And the insight here is that it's never a question of resources, it's a question of resourcefulness. Whatever you have around you, how can you use that to just take one more step forward? Even if it's at 0.0001%, like how can you use what you have to take that next step forward? And that's what I had to do. Like I had to just take what I had and take the next step forward. And then a friend of mine who I'd known from SRC, the Student Representative Council at UCT, Greg, who is such a talented guy. I mean, he had offers. I mean, he can do anything. You know, everyone like would want him in his company, in operations, in marketing. He's just so good. He reached out to me and said, let's chat about Digs Connect. It's history now, but partnering with Greg is probably the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. A colleague, a partner who just unlocks this inspiration in you, this the push you, whatever it is, that takes you to that level. It is worth that. It's worth not settling, but you have to get yourself to that level, and that means doing the work. If this feels exhausting, then what helps a lot is to break it down in manageable steps. Think like, what can you do right now? So obviously you have, you know, your long-term goal, you have this amazing idea for this business you want to build. Break it down into the steps right now and just start doing that. So the final thought here is just do your work. Your co-founder will find you. All right, so that's this week's session. I would love to know your thoughts. Check in the comments to start a conversation. Upstartbook.com is now live. You'll find the forum where you can start posting about your ideas, chat to people, comment on other people's posts. See if you can find, someone who's is interested. Just go out there and increase your area of serendipity. Have coffees with people. Have a conversation what you're doing. The usual things. Subscribe if you like what's going on. If you want to stay in touch with the content. New videos coming out next week, as always. Like or unlike this video. Feedback helps. And I will see you next week, guys. Have an amazing, amazing week. Start now. Do your work.